G'day, hi, and welcome. All right, how to pick the best tunes to play live. Okay, whether you're going to be a street musician, play bars or whatever, there's a couple of things that you can do to really spice up the show so that you can make more money. Now, I'll address the busker first. If you're a busker, you obviously have to have content that's going to inspire people and engage people as well, in the sense of that it draws them in. So sometimes the top 40 stuff can be a hit and miss, where you play a song really well, but it's not a song that just pulls people in. Sometimes being a little more unique and original and doing something like originals altogether or instrumentals sometimes do better than your regular singing your regular songs. But usually when it's a street busker stuff, it usually upbeat usually does better. I haven't got a lot of busking, but I knew a lot of guys that did years ago when I was more active in playing and stuff like that. And one guy in particular had a dobro. If you don't know what a dobro is, it's a steel guitar that you play slide on, and basically think like blues players, that type of thing. And he would basically busk, different times of the day, and he would make a lot of money. But he didn't busk every day. He knew his audience, and that's one thing you got to learn, is to know your audience. What is your audience? Who's your audience going to be? What are they going to want to hear? What's going to draw in your audience? These are questions that you should be asking yourself if you're a street musician, right? So if you go to a buskers festival, you're probably going to do well just because there's so many people there that want to see buskers. So that one's a no-brainer. But busker festivals don't happen every day. So then you're probably looking at, okay, well, who's going to be the most likely to throw a little bit of money in your tip jar, or your hat, or your guitar case, or whatever? Well, it's probably going to be people that are more looser and happy-go-lucky and in a better mood. So you're really talking about playing outside of the bars, on a Saturday night or something like that, rather than early morning, midday. But sometimes during, say, different festivals, you might be able to do that, or outside sports arenas. You might get some stuff there, but the places that are going to probably do the best is where people are out for a good time in the first place. So if they're out for a good time in the first place and you want to play there, then it's a matter of what tunes do you pick. Well, to be honest with you, the songs you don't have to overthink that one. How you play the song is more important and how the song engages with the people is more important than the actual lyrics or the song itself. And that's one thing I've learned over the years playing live, was it really didn't matter what you played, it's how you played it. And a lot of times, obviously, anything that has humor with it always engages the audience quite well. Anything that's slow and sad and depressing, and I've learned this the hard way. If you play live and you play, ballad after ballad after ballad, you're going to be playing to an empty room by the end of the night, no matter how good you are, unless people are going there for that specific thing. Like, for example, like if you're Celine Dion, covering that, or what's the other one? What's her name? But anyway, all her songs are very mellow. They're very, okay, you can get away with that, but that's a very usually small venue. It's not a big venue, and it's usually not people that they're out more for a quiet evening to have lunch or have a supper rather than up and dance and stuff like that. Whereas if you do, like, say, East Coast tunes, drunken sailor stuff, you can pretty much pull that off anywhere, and you will have people up and dancing, whatever. And then that makes people dance. There's a few classics out there that will always get people to get up and dance and engage with the music, and that's what gets you people going. Now, busking is a little different because it's really hard to get people to get up and dance while you're busking, but it does happen. It does happen. Now, as a busker, I never really made a lot. I made some, but a lot of it was due to the timing of when I played rather than where I played. But both were important. So when if you didn't play at the right hour of the day, I mean, one spot you play at 1 hour of the day, you make nothing. A couple hours after, you make everything. And it's not just, okay, you just play at night and you're gonna get all the money. Or you play at the lunchtime when everybody's out on lunch and you're going to make money. It's just, there's a sweet spot somewhere, and it takes a little while to discover it. That's why you'll see one guy with a busking and his guitar case is full of money, and the other guy just down the street, he's got nothing. And the other guy down the street might be a better musician. But it doesn't work like that. It's timing. Timing. So what songs you pick, what that kind of stuff, is not as important as how you play it. And going to the bars, well, it's kind of the same thing, but without repeating myself too much. But with the bars, you are going for more of a different thing. You're using the same formula of who's your audience, what is it that you're going to bring to the audience, what will engage your audience, what do you think they want to hear. Well, a lot of times with the audiences in the bar, it's getting them to either sing along, clap along, or something like that, and engaging with the audience. The other thing, too, is just playing the songs with no interaction in a bar is the worst thing you can do. You don't want to be one of those guys that talk for 4 hours, you know what I mean, in between each song. But you do want to give maybe play 3 or 4 songs and then start talking to the audience for a minute or two, and then back into the song and then another song and then talk to the audience for a minute or two, crack a joke, whatever it is, whatever. Get engaged with the audience, because it just warms up the show, and what it does is it also it keeps audience retention, where if you're just playing song after song after song without people, they love the music, whatever, but we're going to go over to this place now, we're going to go to that place. But when you engage with them, then it's like, okay, well, what's he going to do next? Or he or she, what are they going to do next? So you engage in between the songs. You don't have to do it every song, but every few songs, engage. Especially, I'd say, the first 2 sets. The third set, you could pretty much just let it rock, because by that, if you got people sitting around by the third set, you've got them. You've got them for the night. They're not going anywhere at that point. Maybe some might, but for the most part, they're not going anywhere. They're going to sit. They're now enjoying themselves. They want to do that. So if you can get a few people up and dance, that's always a good thing. If you get people to sing along, that's even better. If you get them to sing along and dance, that's even greater. So how you pick your songs, obviously, when you're playing a bar, don't bring in more than, if you've got 3 sets, an hour long each, or 45 minutes, depending on, every place is different. Some places, they make you take a 15-minute break because they want people to have some downtime and whatever, so that they could talk or whatever. But it also depends on the volume you're playing, too. Sometimes that matters, sometimes not. I always practice a 3-hour set. Or 3 hours, for 3 sets. So that if you're lucky and you only have to do 45 minutes, well, fine. Okay, you get paid out of the way, right? The other thing, too, is have a tip jar up on the stage, too. A little extra. Because sometimes the bars don't pay that well. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Everybody has their threshold of what they're willing to work for and what they're not. Some bars don't pay at all. If you're doing it just for the experience and just because you want to get out there and play, I can understand that. But one thing to think about is when you play for free somewhere, you might be taking away the opportunity for somebody else to get paid. Because it's like, well, I can get these guys for free, so then they get turned down. So, you don't want to be over insistent, but always push to get paid. Even if it's $40, $60, whatever it is. If it's a real small venue, probably $60 is the max you're probably going to get, which is, it's not great money. But if you're not traveling far, then no problem, it'll pay for your night, But if you have the tip jar out there, you might double your money in a night. And I've done that a couple of times, where one time I made $175, but the bar only paid me $60. The other time I got paid like $125. The bar only paid me $60. And other times I got paid like $175 a night, whatever to be, 275. It takes a while to find those gigs that pay good, but if you can get them recurring once a month, like if you can get 3 gigs a month at $300 a month or $300 a gig, you're going to do okay. You're going to do okay, especially if you're doing other things. But it might take you a few months to hunt those out. This is where, can busking make more than playing in bars? Well, that's a debate to be had. There's some people, I busk, I make $40 an hour, or I make $500 an hour, but that happens like twice a year. You know what I mean? Like other guys, again, I've busked where I've made $75, and I've busked where I made 75 cents. And I've busked where I didn't make a cent. Busking is kind of a hit and miss. The potential to make more is there, but also there's no guarantee you're going to make anything. So that's the downside to busking. Unless you're a really, really good busker and you've done you know where to be at what time and exactly how to work your audience. All this stuff takes time and experience. So you're not gonna do great right at the beginning most of the time. So ease your way into it. But the bars are a little bit more of a sure thing, but sometimes it's hard to get booked because if it's a good paying bar, then everybody wants to work there. But yeah, the engagement of the audience how engaging is the tune you're picking? A lot, because I've seen guys there was one guy I remember, he was really, really good, but he was playing stuff that was like top 40 and he played exceptionally well. And he sang well and everything like that, but he just couldn't seem to pull in the audience. It was just songs that just didn't seem to resonate with the audience. And not that they weren't good songs. I mean, they were the type of songs that if you heard them on the radio, you'd be really happy to hear them on the radio, and you'd probably be singing along with the radio. But it seemed like live, it just didn't grab the people. And what I picked out was that they were too ballady. Like one song was just more, it was more mellow than the next. Now, mind you, the venue he was playing, it wasn't some place where you were just going to let it rip and roar. Sometimes that is required, and it's like, well, you're getting paid anyway, but just be background noise is what, they want background noise. They don't really want, the crowd up and screaming and yelling while people are trying to have a meal, right? So there is, you got to pick your venue, you got to figure out how you're doing it. What's really required there. Some places, and I've seen guitar players do this, where they play, and there's no singing, and they're not even plugged in. They're not allowed to be plugged in at the, it'd be like a bistro or someplace like that. And they have to be dressed up, in a suit and tie, and really, they're just more for the aesthetic of having, they're not really supposed to play anything too lively. They can play a little bit of whatever. And a lot of these guys are usually like flamenco players and stuff like that, which can get very lively, but they tend to, just nice soft touch so that people can have a meal while they're playing. And then other plays, it's like you just let it rip and roar. And if not, if the crowd isn't clapping on every song, you're probably never going to work there again. But at the end of the day, what it really comes down to is if you make the establishment that you're working at money, you will be there all the time. But most of the time, I learned, don't throw out too many ballads. If you want to make money as a solo musician, just you and your guitar, whatever. If you want to play with backing tracks, stuff like that, I've seen a lot of people do that. I'm not a big fan of backing tracks, playing along with backing tracks, and I'll tell you why. It's too rigid. A band, you could take a song, you could lengthen it, you could shorten it, you can go up, you can go down, you can go left, you can go right on the song, and it doesn't really matter because you've got human beings there that'll work with you. But then you got more people to pay. When you're playing along with a pre-recorded track, if you miss something, it stands out. You can't cover it. Whereas when you're just, sometimes less is more. When you just have just a guitar and a mic in front of you, you don't need the backing tracks most of the time. You can keep the audience just as engaged. I've done this tons of times, speaking from experience. I'm not saying I'm the best player in the world or whatever, but I've learned how to work an audience. Because the first thing you want to keep in mind is when you are in your room practicing, you're a musician first. If you're in a recording studio, you are a musician first. But when you're on a stage, you are an entertainer first. Therefore, when you're picking your songs, make sure that they're entertaining first. Make sure that those songs are going to work with the audience and keep the audience engaged and stuff like that. So hopefully that helps. So exactly what songs you pick, it doesn't really matter. I've seen people do all kinds of unorthodox stuff. Take songs that you would never expect to see, and turn it into something really cool. And there's lots of really good solo artists out there that you can pick ideas from. But one thing I noticed that don't go too ballady. I know ballads are easy and stuff like that. You might sound really good at them, but you're going to lose your audience early on because it's not that it's too depressing. It's not lively enough. Now that even holds true for country western. Country western stuff, a lot of it is very ballady, but if it's too slow and too depressing, you'll lose your audience. You'll lose your audience. There has to be an element of fun there. It's not about how fast you're playing it or whatever, or how lively you're playing it. A lot of time it's the content itself that, if you play just way too many ballads in a row, you will lose your audience. You'll be playing to an empty crowd by the end of the night, and you won't work there again. Whereas if you take it up a notch, you don't have to take it up by much, but you got to keep the mood positive. So it's not whether the song's fast or slow. It's the keeping everybody to have a good time, not a depressing time, right? So you want to keep everybody on a bit of a high or engaged. And one of the ways is, for example, if you do a song and you do like this song was written by such and such, and it was about this incident that happened, and here, let's see what the song has to say, and stuff like that. And you get people going. Interaction with the audience is probably going to be more important than what tunes you pick. But just make sure that they're picked. Like again, who's your audience? What do you think they want? How are you going to get them to interact with the songs you pick? It's a bit. It takes a little bit of a while to get that down, because one of the big things you have to fight with is confidence. Maybe I should do a video about stage confidence. But I'll leave it at that. So anyway, make sure you smash that subscribe button, hit that like button, and make sure you share the video. And have yourselves a great day.